Welcome to a special edition of the KCHW. We're not going to call it the morning show. This is the an art interview. We do these before the art talks, before the art walk. The art talk before the art walk. So this is the art discussion before the art talk before the art walk.
There you go.
And yeah, we try to do this the first Thursday of about every other month, or first Wednesday, pardon me, of about every other month. We have a couple artists on that are going to be featured in the month's art walk. So today we're joined with Jamie Rose Lord and Marcy Bravo. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. So you two are going to be featured you guys were featured in the Winterfest, correct, Tim?
They are two of the artists that have been juried into the show.
Mm-hmm.
So they are on display currently at Trails Inn Gallery.
And later today, you guys are going to be over at the Quartzsite Brewery giving your art talk, telling us all about your art and everything. And we're just going to have a little discussion here before we get going.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It's a warm-up.
It's a warm-up, yeah. So
Great.
Tim, do you want to give us a little introduction on who we're talking to here and a little bit about them? Or
Well, there are artists that are in the show. Jamie did the mural that's above
Yes.
the creamery. So, but I want her to talk about that. Marcy has a really nice little column that's in the North Columbia Magazine. I met her a few years ago. She and my wife do ceramics together, or started doing ceramics together. So that was my first introduction to Marcy. But they've got a lot going on. They do work with the theater, backdrops, and all this other stuff. But I don't really have firsthand knowledge of that. So I just want to say I'm glad that they're in the show.
yes,
It is a fantastic show. I think it's the best Winterfest show we've had yet. And we've already sold 11 pieces, and that kind of tells me something that the work just continues to rise, basically. The art just gets better, and it's just a fantastic show. But I'm going to let you have a nice conversation with them.
Well, let's go ahead and start with Jamie here. Tell us a little bit about some of your background and your art styles. And
Okay, thanks, Chuck. So I'm originally from Canada, and I went to school in Nelson at the Kootenai School of the Arts, and that was a really great experience. And I graduated way back in 2000, and I've been making art ever since. One of the main things that they suggested that we do was keep making art and don't stop. So I've just been creating and making art for 20 plus years as I would say that I'm not like a full-time artist, but that's my goal, that I can take the art to the next level. And so I enjoy doing oil painting, and I'm really looking forward to more public mural art, and yeah, just getting real creative, going to workshops, and just exploring my art and having fun.
very cool. Yeah, I've seen you do mural art. I saw a really cool one you did. It was a one of those concrete barriers, alongside of the road.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. I did a K-rail. It was a
Yeah, that's what
100-foot
it was.
K-rail in Lakeview, Oregon, for some friends of ours, and it was like all of the seasons plus all of the animals that would migrate through that area, and it was a really fun and exciting mural, and nice to do something like that for some patrons of ours. My husband and I do the mural work together sometimes, but the creamery mural was all mine. That was all of my painting work, and I had a great experience painting that as well.
And tell us, what is the name of the cow on the mural?
Her name's Dandelion.
Dandelion.
Yeah, Dandelion and I were great friends. Yeah, actually went to the farm and met. I probably met a dozen cows, and took pictures, real intimate, close pictures of all of them, and chose that one.
Nice.
Chose that particular photo of her because there was a lot of personality in her. Yeah.
It comes through in the mural.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's adorable. Every time I drive by, she kind of brings a smile to my face. I
Oh,
love
thank
her.
you.
So Marcy, your turn. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
So I am a creative person, but my schooling was actually in molecular biology.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been a long road from there, but I basically finished a master's degree and then realized at the same time like that it wasn't necessarily my field. So I've definitely been. That was in New Orleans. I started moving west from there after college and just got really inspired by people that I've met along the way. I ended up living in Santa Fe and meeting one of my good friends who's just was like this like archetype of a muse, really. Her name was Danielle, and she was a fashion designer, and we threw some parties and made clothes. And then I ended up eventually in San Francisco, where I answered a Craigslist ad and ended up living in a warehouse of artists for about a dozen years.
Wow.
And so it was, so it's just been an interesting whirlwind of like the world just taking me where I feel like I guess I was meant to go in a very like serendipitous and organic sort of way. Yeah.
Very cool. Can I get you to stay a little closer to the mic?
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
That our microphones aren't there. You got to be right up on them.
Okay.
There you go.
How's that?
That's good. Perfect.
Okay. So I lived there a dozen years. I had friends and roommates and community that was just really creative and a lot of full-time artists. And I was more like, I felt like I was in an immersive artist lifestyle kind of program. When I lived there, I had several different kinds of jobs within like the tech industry and hospitality and stuff. But but I was also just like, I knew a lot of people and I was a connector, and I had a really fun time just facilitating art and cross-pollinating ideas and hanging art shows and being a project manager for a couple of different big Burning Man projects. And then I moved here. And all of a sudden, it was really quiet.
So I'm curious about this Craigslist ad. I got to ask about this. Was it a thing? Was it an organized thing, or was it a bunch of people that were like, "Hey, we got this warehouse we want to rent," and got a bunch of people together to pay the bills on it?
Yeah, well, it was a little bit of everything, Chuck. The house that so we had like a city block big. It was I lived in a city block sized 34-foot tall metal warehouse that used to be the R.J. Reynolds building in the Butchertown district of San Francisco.
So like where they made tobacco products, right?
They made, I guess so, or I don't know, foil?
Aluminum.
Aluminum, yeah. Because
aluminum.
They actually had like aluminum tiles that were like, I met a random person who ended up saying that he had done a graduate school project on that building randomly, because it still had all these aluminum tiles, and it also had cranes that were like 64-ton cranes, like huge cranes that were now like blocked into people's bedrooms because, eventually people just made walls and the crane was still in there.
Were the cranes still functional within the rooms?
I don't think so, but if you did, you would really take out a lot of living spaces. So it was not something I was allowed to touch, definitely. But there were, you had the button things.
Yeah.
Everywhere, every once in a while. But
That'd be
it was
great if you need to rearrange furniture or assemble bunk beds.
Exactly. Or lift, like there was
Wipe
auto
the
body
slate
shops
clean.
in there too. Like where I moved into first was an auto body shop that had been taken over by an artist named Cal Speletich, and he made robots that breathed fire. And so that was like a whole thing. My mom cried. I'm so sorry, Mom. They really were not happy with where I lived when I was 24 years old.
You know, if my kids did that at 20, I would be ecstatic.
I
would be
know.
like, when can I move in?
Oh,
can I visit? I'd be knocking on
yeah.
the door all the time. Can I visit? Can I come in? Can I
That
come
would
in?
be, I know, me too. I mean, yeah, there are definitely a lot of things I wouldn't be excited about my son doing that I did, but living in that area and in that world was really cool. So
I think it had to be a rite of passage for an artist to live in a warehouse, because I also lived in a warehouse in
Nice.
Portland, Oregon, and I lived.
It's the only way to afford to live in Portland.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Or San
this
Francisco.
was back in the early 2000s, and my husband and I lived in a loft section of the warehouse, and we would have these big, huge art parties, and there was just a bunch of wild, crazy artists that like just existed, and we all had the same kitchen, and you'd run across one at 3 a.m, and then it's just, I think it's just part of being an artist. You just you live in a school bus once, you
Yeah.
live in a warehouse once, you check off all of these boxes, and
It was like
then
cheap rent and community
Yeah.
too.
and then you're all grown up and you're like, oh, I lived a colorful life.
Oh yeah, I know. I lived in a commune with like eight roommates. Not a compound with like 3 different houses in the same little property, and almost
Fun.
lived in this group sort of thing with a shared use communal kitchen where we're all going to build our own little Earthship homes, and that turned out to be a cult. So I ran screaming from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Luckily, I realized that one before we paid the deposit.
Oh my
I haven't
gosh.
checked off the cult box yet.
I was this close.
There's still
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the alien leader hadn't quite descended yet, so I still had time to get out of there.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so was yours a Craigslist ad too, or was it?
No, I really, it's been a long time, so I can't really actually even recall how we landed there. It was just one of those random things. You live in the city, and before you
Right.
know it, I think we were living in the back of our truck for a while. It's just,
Don't forget a yurt should be on that list, a mandatory list. All artists should live in a yurt for
well,
at least a while.
Marcy and I enjoy going to the barter fair together, so we get to have like 4 days of that kind of living, and that's about all we need, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I've done my share.
Yeah.
Done my time, but
When you talked about doing projects at Burning Man, that's pretty much communal living at its
definitely.
largest scale, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, and I the last one I went to, I was project managing for one of my best friends, and Mike Garlington and his partner Natalia Bertotti, and they designed this really cool 70-foot tall tower that was kind of paying homage to art and animals and like just the natural world. And we were there for 24 days building in the desert. And I was living
Wow.
stupidly in a like pup tent, which I should have the year before I had a yurt made out of like insulated things. But anyways, it was, I found out I was pregnant there, and it was really a miserable place to be pregnant at the beginning. I was very sensitive.
Oh, I can imagine.
But it was a really good year, and then it was like Colville, so
Right.
Stevens County, and that's how I busted in.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. So how did I want to hear sort of about your beginnings into art. We've talked a little bit about some of your educational background and some of your early living conditions. What got you into? So did you start out doing more mural work, or did you start out doing smaller things? I know I've seen you do like flat wood stuff. You do
Yeah.
some ink.
I'd say it's been just a lifetime of being creative and drawing and painting ever since I can remember being, really artistic. I just took as many art classes in high school as I could instead of the smart kid classes. I was always taking the art classes. I'm smart, but
But that's where the
in
cool
art.
kids are in the art classes,
yeah.
right?
So I did that, and just going to art school felt right. It was like really close to home, and it was a small art school. It was affordable, but after school I finished up, and I kind of felt like I didn't really know what I was supposed to say. I didn't know what my artist should have something to say, and I didn't really quite know what that was.
Right.
So I took off traveling like how Marcy did, and I went the other direction. I went east, so I landed in Nashville, Tennessee, and I
Okay.
lived there for a few years. I had some family that lived there, but I got to live by myself downtown Nashville, and
Nice.
I was painting along the way and like exploring abstract painting, color fields. I was dabbling in all just sorts of different mediums to find my voice. And I think it took a while to figure out what I was doing. So I just explored. I just, tried painting this style, that style, this style, that style. And then I'd say it's been years of doing that has started to come together for me, where I feel most inclined to create what I see. And so like when I'm painting now, I really enjoy painting like representational more than imaginative, because for a long, long time it was out of my imagination, and that was fun, but I just wasn't grounded, and I felt like I was floating around a little too much. So once I started to become inspired by nature and my surroundings, I felt like I was tapping into something closer to my heart. And then from then on, it just seems like that's sort of been the direction I've been headed. So it's like more, it's not realism, it's like impressionism. And so I like to create a little bit of like add color that maybe not everybody would see, but I kind of just like to, flare up things. But I do work on wood slices. My grandfather slices up the wood for me, and so I have like a million wood slices to work on. And I do small paintings, large paintings. I did a lot of cityscapes when I was in the city. I painted tons and tons of like hip city paintings, and they were popular there. But when I moved to the country, to Stevens County, to Northport, that all just like was a fast stop.
Oh, I'd imagine.
People were not interested in skyscrapers and colors and buildings and bridges and cogs. They they did not understand. So that was maybe, part of how I've shifted gears.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know, how do you identify, or what is your art? That's probably a thing that makes most artists cringe, because it's how do you define it,
Yeah, it can be a challenge to define yourself and to find what you find inspiration from and you're passionate about. But it is exciting when you kind of do tap into it, and you don't even really at that point need to have an inspiration anymore, because it seems like it comes more naturally, where it's just there.
And I've talked to a lot of artists that seem like, they sort of struggle to find this sort of self-identity, this, how they would define their work or their self as an artist. And it seems like when they stop trying to do that is generally when they find themselves, when they sort of let things come, like you said, naturally and organic.
I think so.
So yeah.
And we're always changing, growing, and new. I mean, there's always new influences coming in from the universe or the people that we meet. And
like Marcy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Marcy and I are good friends, and she and I have been creating artwork together, just to segue into the next portion of the conversation.
Ooh.
But
Collaboration.
Marcy and I collaborate together. For 2 years, we've been doing the set painting for the Woodland Theater productions.
for the spring
For
production.
the spring productions. And we just polished up the last one for Into the Woods about a week and a half ago. And we worked tirelessly.
Yeah. Jamie was a great lead on that, and she was a really heartfelt leader, and I like doing what she tells me to do, and she gives me the confidence and reminds me that of the skills that I have. So it's always really fun to work together and to see something come from nothing. Like everything starts off black, like the whole stage is black, everything is black, the ceiling, the walls, the backstage, and then it just becomes another world.
Nice.
And yeah.
We have a stage right here in KCHW if you guys want to, do some collaboration here on our stage.
Ooh.
Sure.
Yeah.
You have an open invitation. So,
Sounds good.
If we have we had an awesome team of volunteers also, which really allowed us to go really big and detailed and make such another, just a beautiful world for the stage.
So I am excited about Into the Woods. I love, it's a great show.
Yeah, it's a spooky one. I didn't really realize how spooky it was. I thought it was a fairy tale at first. I was like, oh, it's a fairy tale. So, and then as we went along, we come to find out that it's a little darker.
It is.
So it's just, I think it's a more of a reality fairy tale sort of. But we still enjoyed making a whimsical, magical fairy tale land.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great.
If we could divert a little bit, where and when can they see your set design?
The Woodland Theater is showing the Into the Woods for the next there's 2 more weekends left. So
Okay.
Friday nights, Saturday and Sunday is a matinee and an evening show. And I don't know if they have a Thursday night show.
No.
And it's in Kettle Falls.
And it's in Kettle Falls. Yes, sorry. So if you check out their website, woodlandproductions.com, they have links to buy tickets, and you can actually you can choose your seats. So it helps to see which shows are less crowded too,
Very
if you're
nice.
looking for that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a great production.
Nice little plug there for the theater.
Yeah.
They do great shows there. They really do, and they've got a phenomenal facility.
Yes.
They've got a really great theater there, and a great program.
It was a lot of fun to be able to be at the theater, and we would be there all alone, and it was dark, and I don't know, it just felt kind of really special to be backstage on the stage, and the lights would be on, and it would just be all of us, and sometimes we'd paint in silence, sometimes we'd have our music on, and I don't know,
Nice.
we just really enjoyed hitting it hard. There was about 13 volunteers every
Sunday.
it was every Sunday, but then we also had Thursdays and Fridays, so we wouldn't have 13 all the time, but I figure there's at least 300 hours of work that all of us have applied
Yeah.
to the painting of the set alone. And so that doesn't include the building of the set. And that wasn't us. We just did the painting of it, but there's so many hours that go behind every production. Like you just,
Oh yeah.
it's incredible.
It is.
We like a lot of times here we wax poetic about theater. Scott and I both love the theater, been involved in various stages throughout our life, and there's just something magical about being involved in a production. It doesn't matter what role you have in that production. I talk a lot about through my childhood. I played sports. I don't remember hardly any of it, but I remember every second spent in that theater.
Wow.
There's a lot of lasting memories I think that bring from that. There's a vulnerability that comes with being in a theater with people that you
Yeah.
sometimes don't get in other group activities.
Absolutely. And just creating something from nothing for the community itself
Yes.
is just such a beautiful way to spend time.
It is, and I have likened it to like a sand castle because you
Yes.
do a beautiful painting and the set is just unbelievable, and then 2 months later they say, okay, this is the next play we're doing, and everything gets painted black.
Yep.
And so it's like it gets washed away into the ocean like a sandcastle. So it's not permanent, and there's the acceptance of that when you're creating it, that this is fleeting. This is like in the moment, and it only exists for right now, and then it's it's used for the play, and then it's gone. So.
Yeah. It's very
love that.
Buddhist.
And we also did
that.
the Beehive set. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
Marcy and I, together with another crew, probably about 10 of us on that one, we did the kind of a laugh-in theme on the Beehive set. And
Nice.
that was a really
That was
fun one as
fun.
well.
Yeah.
I love the laugh-in tie-in. That was Nick at Night when I was a kid. You were
I
probably a
don't.
little younger than
I
me. You probably don't know
remember.
that, but
We're all the same
Same
age
age.
here.
okay.
I don't remember it though.
I do. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't in Canada.
That's right. It
So you-
probably wasn't in
So you
Canada.
graduated in 2000.
I graduated art school in 2000.
graduated
so
art school in 2000, okay.
I graduated high school in 1996.
Okay, I was 97. So yeah.
I was 96 and then,
Yeah.
2000 also.
Oh wow.
See, Marcy and I think we're like sister twinsy artsies together.
Yeah, we're
like-
art twinsies.
And then we were connected together here in the Colville area. It's just really excellent to have an artistic friend that you can bounce ideas off of,
Yes.
and creativity, I think, is like it's it's great to have our partners, like my husband. He can like be supportive and say, okay, that looks great. But it's also really nice to take a piece of art to a fellow artist and have them be, constructive criticism and know that exists between the two of us. Like we can
Right.
do that with each other. And so that's a special bond that Marcy and I have together, that we get that.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's hard to
great.
find.
That's great. And, like you said, the constructive criticism, it's really nice to have someone that also understands, what it's like to have that criticism directed towards them. So you kind of do it in a way that's more helpful and less
Yeah.
just judgmental. I know a lot of times you get people that aren't in the art world that are trying to commission a piece or do something, or whether it's graphic design, and sometimes it's hard for them to sort of communicate
Yeah.
that what they're looking for or what specifically they want to translate into the piece. So
Yeah.
it's really nice
It's
to have that.
Nice to have
Yeah.
somebody who speaks the
Speaks the
same
language.
language.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely.
So let's go ahead. Is there, before we get going into the show and tell here, is there anything else you guys would like to, something you guys want to talk about, or?
I'd like to thank my husband, who's been like this amazing rock of, well, he's been a font of art supplies.
Nice.
And, but he's also been like, kind of like my champion. Because when I did move here and it was crickets, and I suddenly didn't have an artist community to make art with, it was pretty lonely. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. And he's like, you can make your own art. And I was like, that sounds crazy. And I kind of fought it for a little bit, but obviously I just needed a little time. So
Did you guys meet
Yeah.
here after you moved here, or was it?
no,
did you come here
he
with
and
him?
he and I met at the warehouse that I lived in because his best friend from college was my next door neighbor for 10 years. So
Okay.
yeah.
So he also lived in the art warehouse.
No, he just came to visit. He was
Okay.
actually living on the East Coast, but he'd come and visit his best friend like every year.
Nice.
So we met like 10 years before we got married or serious or anything like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I don't want to get too personal. You can just tell me to be quiet. But how did that work out? So you meet at this warehouse where he's your roommate's friend, and then 10 years later, you guys meet again somewhere, or was it through your friend again?
No, I
or-
mean we met every year or two, and it was always like there was, I don't know if this may be a little bit personal, but I
don't have to.
always thought he was a heartthrob. But neither of us had any intention of living outside of where we already lived. So I wasn't going to move from San Francisco. He was on the East Coast doing grad school and living his life over there. And so it wasn't until 7 years later, I think, when I was at an age where I was like ready to do something new. I think I had exhausted the art world of San Francisco in a lot of ways. And I was like, and it was a wild ride, and I was ready for something different. So
Wow.
it was finally like ready for quiet. And then he was just getting out of medical school then. So
Right.
we both were kind of coming to this new transition in our lives.
So then you end up in Stevens County.
Yeah. And then we ended up here for his work.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to meet the Woodland Theater people early on and know that there was art. And I met Gina Greenwood.
Yes.
So one of the art pillars of Chihuahua, and she was one of my first friends before I moved here. So I met Govidare and Forrest and all of the mountain people.
Right.
What's up, mountain people? Early on when I moved here, before I'd even had my son. And so it's always been Chihuahua has been a really nice neighbor, because I know that there's a great community here of artists and creative people that are constantly wanting to create community. And I think for me, art is a lot about creating community, and that's what Burning Man is, and living in a warehouse full of people, and Jamie here. So it's like we just keep making community through our creativity, and it's a beautiful thing. Oh,
Very
and Tim too, and Nandis, and
And we have people like Tim.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a push. It's just kind of happening. We've really got this great sort of art culture happening here in Chihuahua that's really exciting to see it happen, see what's happened since I've been here, and to just sort of envision what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, and very much, I think it started with the theater here
Yeah.
in town. So that really kind of primed the pump, I think, for a lot of what goes on. And Chautauqua also, so there's some good structure that was here. And while it was it wasn't my primary objective to start a gallery when I moved up here, it's just, there was no reason I couldn't either.
Right.
And so I don't know, but I think a lot of stuff here is like that. It's real dynamic. It's very dynamic with the guild and now the creative district too, and obviously the theater, and
Right.
this town really wants to do like the Winterfest and the other seasonal offerings that the city's coming up with, Summerfest and Fall Fest, and it's a very fertile ground for entrepreneurs and community thinkers and artists, and there's a very good all the people that just dive in and help. The volunteer part of the community is incredible. Really,
It really is. And it's a good place to dive in. I mean, just look to the left, look to the right, and go. There's opportunities everywhere to just jump in and help and make a difference.
Absolutely.
So-
And for me too, with like the Winterfest is so much fun because I get to meet and get to, like we had met earlier, both Marcy and Jamie. I had met them before. Actually, I think I just met Jamie in the last year. But to have that connection and then to really go, you really should, you should enter something for Winterfest. And it's just a great exchange. That's just a very vibrant show to have that many pieces. I think there's 56 pieces in the show.
Right.
And, people always come in and go, God, there is such a diversity of work. Well, we're all different.
There really was. I've really enjoyed all the pieces and all the exhibits and everything this year. It's been really, like you said, man. There's it feels like things are reaching a different level this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think having this space and really dialing this gallery space in, I mean, so much so that we have a back gallery now.
Right.
Utilizing all the space. Someone came in and jokingly said, "Well, you're going to need a new building. You need more space." We don't really. It's a very, you want it to be a somewhat dynamic situation. Art coming in and stuff like that. Other than we were going to have Rick Jondro, like he passed, but we were going to have a show in May, June, and it's probably not going to come to pass. His daughter told me that in their culture, you're really supposed to grieve for a full year before you go
Right.
out, and so it's like, okay, I didn't know that because she had approached me first. But so I'm trying to figure out right now what to do with May, June, and other than that, the gallery's booked through April of 2026.
That's incredible.
So
That's really incredible. And the creative district is going to be rolling up our art walks for the first Thursday here pretty soon, and any overflow, toss them our way.
well, our core area is it's fun,
Yeah.
with the Yale Press and the McCunn Gallery and us, and even Westhoff's. They jump in quarterly, but they do just an incredible job every time with the artists that they find. And of course, the brewery. The brewery's got art too. They've got a photographer, and anyway, they've been a part of this from year one for me as well. I mean,
Yeah.
allowing us to have the art talks there, and so it's pretty cool. It's just been a very supportive environment. You're still on your own. I mean, in terms of this is an entrepreneurial effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it is a business after all. You really have to, work hard to make it work. But we had our 8th anniversary in January, so, feel
that's
lucky to
great.
be here with all these artists. So
And we love having you guys here on when we do these interviews. It's a lot of fun. I look forward to it.
I told them it'd be fun.
Yeah, I really look forward to these. They're just just having a conversation about art. It's really great.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
fun.
And I'm thank you, Tim, for allowing us to do it.
You're welcome.
And I know sometimes at the radio station we've joined in occasionally for some of the art walks. Sometimes not. Sometimes we do more so if we have something special going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, generally it's when it's the first Thursday, when it's kind of the grand open, so to speak,
Yeah.
which was back February 1st, then you always want to make sure, that is content. That is something to be talked about. But at that one, I said, we have an art talk open, and these two jumped in. And,
It's funny.
know,
No, it's well, I'm happy. I'm super excited to be here with Jamie. I love her so much, and I love you too, Tim. But it was funny because I was sitting next to Gail. Oh, I was sitting next to Gail at the art talk last month, and she was telling me that I should do this, and I was like, no, it's cool. Like, I'm sure you're gonna find somebody great, but it's not gonna be me. And then Jamie comes up to me at the end of the night, and she's like, so I signed us up for the art talk next month. And I was like, was this to Gail? Because I just spent the whole evening saying no. And it wasn't. It was great. It was good. I'm glad to be here, and it's always good to share.
It's really important, though, for artists to learn how to not only gain their voice in their medium, but to talk about their work. Your narrative, I think the artist's narrative, spoken as well as playing out on canvas or whatever, it's really important. And people love to hear the artist talk about their work. It's not just their work. They're talking about their life. They're talking about living in a warehouse in San Francisco.
Exactly.
Or living in a warehouse in Portland, or, that stuff is really valuable. And I think of my wife Nandis and I, a lot of we've met just about every artist whose piece of work we have. There's only a couple that we didn't meet the artist. But to me, that I look at it and go, well, I think we bought that because we met the artists and got to talk to them.
Right.
And then it becomes a little timestamp when you look around your house and you see all the artwork and things that you have. There are little timestamps of when you were here, you were in Canada, you were doing this, we were at a gallery in downtown Portland or whatever. I just think it's rich. It's a
Oh, it
rich
is.
experience. So when artists can realize that it's really beneficial to them to talk about their work, it's really nice that you're here doing this. And I think it helps get you to that next level. It's something you need to be able to do fluently.
I think it's really important. I've seen it a lot of times, especially through the Creative District and through the Art Walk, through our Spotlight Gallery. I've seen some artists come in that have never shown before, and they didn't consider themselves artists. I mean, we could do a whole series of
Yes.
shows
Yeah.
on imposter syndrome. But to see that sort of that light click that I'm not a person that does this art stuff. I am an artist, and that realization, and I think, comes from showing your pieces and talking about them and having these discussions. It's a lot about recognizing yourself as an artist.
I think it's networking too.
Yeah.
Talking with other artists, and Marcy telling Gail no, and Jamie telling Marcy yes. I just find that kind of interesting. This little going around, and
It was bound
Here
to
you are.
happen.
It was meant to
Yeah.
be.
I love that. Sometimes you need a friend to drag you into stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That you don't realize that you wanted to do until you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
And I think we've both dragged each other into things that have been really fruitious in
Yeah.
the end.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, like, for a while, I would say I want to grow up and be an artist. And I had read in some self-help book, some philosophical book, that you have to say what you want rather than, you know, project it to the future like that. So instead of saying I'm going to grow up and be an artist, I decided I would say I am an artist.
Right.
And it actually has changed how I feel. Like
Right.
I say it as like that is who I am rather than what I'm going to be. And so it's, I think, that power of projection and, you know, believing in yourself like that, it's really important.
It's priceless. If you'd have told me 2 years ago I'd be doing this, I would have said you are absolutely insane.
You are a radio broadcaster.
I took FM broadcasting in college in the 90s, and it was you know, a thing I did because it was an easy credit. You know, and I it was something I could do for fun, and you know, radio is cool. I want to be on the radio, and then 20 years later, I'm here, and I would have never imagined a million years ever actually doing anything with that. But
All right.
I'm glad to hear it. It's fun. It's fun,
Awesome.
exciting, and I get to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest part.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know.
It
So
is.
so let's go ahead and move on over and see some of your work that you brought with you. Tim.
Start with Jamie.
All right, Tim. We got Tim on the other camera here. If you guys are listening on the radio, you can you check out on Facebook. We have a live video feed going. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and you can see some of the artwork that we're displaying here. Otherwise, if you're listening on the radio, you can just listen to us talk about it. So tell us a little bit about this piece. Let's see here. Let me zoom in just a little bit here. So Jamie, this is yours, correct?
Yeah, this is a painting I had done at a workshop I went to in Mexico. I had been inspired by an artist that was making beautiful art, and he had a workshop, a 4-day oil painting workshop. And I took the class, and I learned so many wonderful techniques that I still use to this day. This was just only a few years ago that I took this workshop, but it just really inspired me to just jump in there and go get it, because it's like a natural talent that I have, and you know, you need to practice and you need to work at it, but it's sitting there. So I know it was just exciting when I was painting and seeing the work come out, because it was just there, sort of. It just came out of me, and
Yeah.
that was exciting to see. And I was like, oh, I can do this.
So tell us a little about your techniques here. So this is oil. I mean, you said you like working in oil. Is that correct?
Lately I've been enjoying oil. So this is oil medium, and it's on canvas. And so the techniques that the instructor had taught me are you paint big to small, and you paint dry to wet, and then you paint, big to small, dry to wet. I'm blanking out on the other one. Dark to light. That's what I taught Marcy.
She taught me.
Nice.
So I use those techniques when I'm painting, and that's the idea of where I'm heading. So if Tim would to show the next painting,
And is it really quick though? Is there? Do I see glitter in that, or is that just the lighting in here?
it's probably just the lighting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody watching on YouTube or Facebook, our lighting in here is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and this next painting has a glaze on it, so
Yeah.
it might even be pretty much
Oh,
impossible to see.
Yeah.
Maybe just go back to the other one, Tim, because I can talk about the art real quick with the other one.
I wonder
Or-
if I tilt this
Yeah.
forward, does it
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
the lighting
there
here
it
doesn't
is.
do your work justice.
All right,
It's,
so I took a
hold it?
I took a plunge last May and joined the Chuila Creative District because they had they were giving everybody an opportunity to paint and create art at the golf course if you were to join. So I joined up with the district, and then I got to spend the day at the golf course painting, and so I painted live, and then that's called plein air painting.
Yes.
So you take your canvas and all of your paints and all your supplies, and you take off to the woods, and you find something you are interested in, and then you paint it. So I just was so jazzed, and I painted throughout that whole day, and I was really raring to go. And so I bought myself all of my plein air equipment. And this spring, I'm going to hit the mountains, and I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to paint a series of paintings. And I'm going to have them on display at Crossroads in Colville for the month of May. And I'm going to have an art reception on, I believe it's May 10th. So you'll be able to see. I'm going to do small, like 4x6, 6x6, smaller paintings of our area. I would like to try to do some local scenes of houses and just kind of like intimate little paintings of our area. So I hope that I can have a nice display of work in May, and maybe you'll come and check them out.
Absolutely. And I know there's going to be another one of those events again this year, the plein air event at the golf course.
Oh, great. I'll be
is
there.
happening again this summer. So
I loved it. It was so much fun.
keep an eye out
Nandis
for
had
that
a
invite.
Nandis had a really good review of Jamie's production and just her enthusiasm at the plein air
Really?
event, and she was so impressed by just you got frames on those the next day, and just your I don't know, just your professionalism and the amount of work that you did and the quality of work. She was just telling me about it because I didn't get to go. So
That's after I decided I am an artist.
Right? That's
It
amazing.
really changed. Yeah.
That is
So,
fantastic. I love those stories.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. So what are we moving on to here?
this is Marcy's.
Okay.
We may have to do the same thing.
Yep. Oh,
Tilt
pardon.
it forward a little bit.
yes,
There we go.
There we go. Pardon the shaky camera work. We get
Drop
nothing.
it a
Nothing.
little bit, or maybe
Yeah.
probably not going to totally get my hand out of it.
Nothing but the best equipment here.
There we go. Okay,
There we go.
such a professional hand though.
Right?
thank you.
So when I moved here, I've spent my whole life, sketching and drawing, and I had done a trip to India in 2009, and I was just really, really into mandalas. And after I had my son, I had a lot of postpartum anxiety, and mandalas really could kind of ground me. So I just did sketchbooks of mandalas and then paintings, and I'd done some before, but now they took on a whole other life. And so this is just acrylic mandala family, and a friend of mine taught me how to pour epoxy, so I've started to glaze on top of them with epoxy. That one's going to go to my new niece, who's in the oven right now, but she's due in August.
Nice.
Yeah,
That'll look fantastic in the
so-
nursery.
Yeah, I think I'm
really
excited about it. So, oh no, now I
We're gonna.
Actually,
Okay.
do the hanging one before you test.
okay. Oh yeah. So I do a lot of illustration for the North Columbia Monthly, but I also do a lot. I mean, my heart right now belongs to ceramics.
Yeah.
I also liked macrame. I guess you could tell that too. But right here, we're looking at 3 ceramic bells. The middle one was a collaboration between me and my son, who made the clapper. It's a porcelain bell with blue underglaze. And
now explain to us what the clapper part is. Is
the
that
clapper's the little dingy part
Okay.
that hangs down. And then
So that's the technical term for the dingy part.
yeah, dingy
Okay,
part.
perfect.
And the other 2 are stoneware. So the middle one's porcelain, and the other 2 are stoneware. And they're 2 different. Those are 2 of my first batch of glazed ceramics that came out of my own kiln this year, which is really exciting. So
Yeah, it is.
it's kind of like Tim said, a timestamp, or what Liz Gilbert says in her book, Big Magic. If nothing else, we get the time that we take to create something. At the end, we have a souvenir. So, these are great little souvenirs for my first firing and that the christening of my studio that is just within walking distance of my house now. So it's really hard to not want to just be there all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
I can
but,
imagine.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the macrame for a second, because I think that's a cool thing. And my kids and I talk about this all the time. I have 2 teenagers at home. And the macrame that was popular in the 70s and 80s is back.
It
It's
is.
back in a really cool way. And I've seen some really elaborate, when we were growing up as kids, you guys know,
Yeah.
we had like the, grandma's macrame plant holder that
That's
she
true.
would make, and a lot of that stuff's really popular again. And people are really making some really, some of the stuff that's coming
Yeah.
out now is just next level. And I
Totally.
really love it.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, I love textiles and fiber arts, and I'm just a kind of a multimedia person myself. So it's really fun to be able to mix mediums, and I was a big friendship bracelet maker when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too.
So I was a constant friendship bracelets on the bus. That's like what I'd be doing.
You had the safety pins.
I had the safety pins,
attached
and
to
I
your jeans.
had like a special way of making plaid that I don't even know how I did it now. But yeah, it was me and my hands are always very busy. And but yeah, and so now it's ceramics
Yes.
too.
Trying to get a little better light there. All right, so tell us about these pieces here. Again, I apologize for anyone viewing on Facebook. Our lighting in here is horrible. We have we have a bad ballast in here. You don't want to hear what it sounds like when I turn the lights on in here.
Sounds like a grant to be
Right?
written.
Ooh,
It does.
yeah.
It does.
Okay.
So when I first started doing pottery, I started during 2019, much thanks to my first pottery teacher, Tom Martinez, in Colville, who really took me under his wing, and I really it lit a fire in me that I think even my husband saw before I did. Because when the shutdown happened and COVID, Caleb was like, okay, so how are you going to do pottery every week? Because you're going to need to. And I'm like, oh, you think so? And he was totally right. And that summer, I was in a little pottery bubble with my teacher, Tom, and Nandis, actually, Tim's lovely other half. And she and I became really good friends, and we threw a lot of pots together all summer long. So the little berry bowl is a berry bowl with a, it's a high fire. I think I did that I think I made it at my teacher's studio a couple of years ago, but it's I just love that piece because it's really symmetrical. It was just a really great piece of clay, and everything that I threw that day I remember really well because everything came out really nicely. But it's a blue transparent glaze on stoneware. It was a Cone 10 high fire, and just getting to make random holes and still have it become symmetrical was like a challenge that I gave myself that worked. And it's really beautiful inside too. And so I started out making very functional pieces, and over time I've started to make much more like just art pieces. The second piece just came out of a raku kiln at the illustrious Red Burnell's house
Ooh,
2
lucky.
weekends ago.
Lucky.
Yes. I was extremely lucky. We had a very small group of women at her house, and we had a month basically to make some raku pieces. And so she opened up her studio and showed us all her glazes, and it's just a wonderland over there that Red lives in and among and has created. But yeah, so we glazed pieces, and she helped, guide us, and then we set stuff on fire and
Nice.
and watched it turn red, and it was a cold day, and it was kind of like sisters by fire. That's what it
yeah.
was.
Well, and anytime anybody wants to, talk wonderful things about Red and Nandis, they are welcome to here. So they're two of my favorite people. in
Oh
Sharia.
man, yeah, they're amazing.
Well, Tim
And-
too. Tim's all right.
Yeah.
But your wife's really cool, Tim. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I-
So are you, Tim.
Yeah, so that was my first real like figurative statuette that I've ever made. And when I carved her, she was like, I was thinking, a woman trying to ground herself in the midst of like the frenzy and kinetic energy of life. So her hair's, so for those that don't have a visual aid, there's a statuette about 9 inches tall or 8 inches tall, and it's a woman who is sitting with her eyes closed. There's like, she kind of seems like she's in a meditative pose, but her hair is just whipping up all around and across her face. And then, but she has like a very raw little heart on her left side of her chest. And then there's a bloom of what I was hoping would be like kind of floral metallic glaze blooming across her.
Yeah, she's gorgeous. I love her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My son thought a completely different thing. He was like, blood. And I was like, okay, that's where your head is. So it could be anything. But yeah, I felt like it was kind of like us women trying to find our peace inside.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. Well, you guys, we probably got to let you guys go in here soon. You guys got an art talk to do over at the brewery in what, an hour?
Yeah.
Is it at 6 or 6:30?
Yeah, they're gonna sneak in for a
It's
little
at
dinner here.
6:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
6:30. I think the brewery opens 6:15.
Okay.
We say 6:30 to 8 on the talk. We get there and set up. I'll go over there about 6:15,
Okay.
and then they'll come over maybe 6:35, 6:40.
I ask that every
As
month we do
people
this.
file in, and then it usually gets going a little before 7.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, you might want to get there a little bit early and grab a beverage
and
before things fill up. And
it is Courtside Brewery after
Right.
all. So
right?
yeah.
I love their. We got a full set of those the shining glasses that they put out.
yeah.
Those are fantastic.
Those are nice.
I love those.
Yeah.
So all right, well, once again, thank you so much, Jamie Rose Lord, and oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. I'm so Marcy.
Bravo.
Marcy Bravo. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I know your name. I just get I start talking and then they just go zoop out of my head. So thank you guys so much, and Tim for coming by and
Thank
doing
you.
this with us today. Anything else? Any parting words of wisdom before you go?
I'd just say probably our social medias, but you can find me on Instagram at Jamie Rose Lord, and I am on Facebook as Jamie Rose Phillips. So just be aware that there are differences on my Facebook. So my Facebook is Jamie Rose Phillips.
Perfect.
Okay?
And you can find me on Instagram at Marcy_Bravo_makes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Chuck.
Yes, and tell us really quick. So your work is on display at Tim's.
Yeah,
at
right
the
now.
Trails End Gallery.
Right now, we both have our work on display at the Trails End Gallery through the end of March.
Through April 13th.
Through April 13th. I have 2 paintings that were accepted into the show, and
One is sold already.
one is
Nice.
sold. That was
Outstanding.
exciting. That felt really good.
First night.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Marcy.
I have 2 pieces of pottery at Trails End Gallery up until April 13th. I have an upcoming show. I'll be a featured artist in Kettle Falls at the Old Apple Warehouse in May.
Nice.
And I'm excited to be doing a really big installation in August in Colville at Dodson's Paints in the window.
Oh,
The
cool.
2 windows.
didn't know.
And so that'll be Colville's 4th Friday series starts this summer again. And so I'll be there.
Awesome. I'll be doing the Colville 4th Fridays as well. And
Okay.
this year I will be doing the pop-up art in the courtyard. And so I'll have just a small display of my small wood slice paintings and little sort of take-home art. And yeah, so I'll be doing that throughout the whole summer. And then maybe someday Marcy and I'll show together.
Ooh, that'd be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Some
Totally.
collaboration.
I'd love that.
Oh,
I love it.
yeah. I
I
love
love
it
it.
too.
Well, once again, I'm going to let you guys go here. We're running behind. So thank you once again so much for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you all for listening to KCHW 102.7. You can catch their artwork at the Trails End Gallery, or you can go see them in a little over an hour over at the Quartzsite Brewery for their art talk.
Come on down.
Yeah, they come out tomorrow for the art walk all around town and check everything out. So thank you so much. This is KCHW 102.7 Northern Lights Public Radio.